The Roses 2025 is a dark comedy about a seemingly perfect married couple, Ivy played by Olivia Colman and Theo played by Benedict Cumberbatch. When Theo's career falls apart after a public failure, Ivy's beachside restaurant takes off and their relationship unravels. Resentment builds, their love turns toxic, and things spiral toward a destructive climax as they fight over everything, including their beautiful home.
The story starts with a married couple, Massimo and Evie. And let's just say, these two can't stand each other anymore. Things got so bad that they decided to visit a marriage counselor, hoping someone could somehow save what's left of their relationship. So, the therapist starts off with a simple question: what's the one thing you love most about your partner? Massimo goes first and says, well, I'd rather live with my wife Evie than live with a wolf. The therapist is completely confused, like, wait, is that supposed to be a compliment or an insult? Then it's Evie's turn. She smiles awkwardly and says, well, I prefer my husband over anyone else who doesn't have arms. At this point, the therapist looks completely lost. Evie tries to explain herself, saying, it's a good thing my husband has arms, because if he didn't, I'd have to take care of him all the time, and that would be exhausting. Still, even through all this chaos, there's a spark of something between them. For example, when Evie describes how loudly Massimo snores, she compares it to a dying dog trying to breathe through the wrong part of its body. Massimo can't help but laugh. The therapist, though, she's just done. She tells them she honestly has no idea what's going on with the two of them. Now, we jump back to the very beginning, to the day their relationship actually started. At the time, Massimo was an architect working on a big project with a group of other designers. But he didn't like what they were doing at all. He thought their buildings looked suffocating. Tiny rooms, no balconies, low ceilings, cheap design. Basically, everything he hated about modern construction. So, instead of exploding in front of everyone, he quietly excused himself and went to the kitchen area of the restaurant they were in just to take a breather. And guess who he runs into there? Evie. Turns out, she's a talented chef, but the restaurant doesn't really value her creativity or let her use her own recipes. Massimo realizes right away that she's just like him, someone whose ideas are constantly overlooked. And somehow, that moment just clicks. They instantly connect, the chemistry is there, and things move ridiculously fast between them. Like record-breaking fast. Before anyone could even process what happened, they were already in a full-blown relationship. Then the story jumps ahead 10 years later. Massimo and Evie are now married with twins. Life seems great. They understand each other. They're deeply in love, and everything looks perfect. But, of course, no marriage is without its little flaws. Evie has this one bad habit. She lets the kids eat way too many sweets. And that drives Massimo crazy. He keeps telling her, you can't let them eat whatever they want. It's bad for their health. But Evie has her own philosophy. She believes kids should learn for themselves. If something's bad for them, they'll figure it out and stop on their own. She thinks banning things just makes kids want them more. Meanwhile, Massimo is working on a massive architectural project, a building designed in the shape of a giant ship for the Navy. It's basically his life's dream, something he's poured his heart and soul into. Evie, wanting to celebrate his achievement, makes a small model of his building out of edible ingredients. It looks beautiful, but there's a problem. She accidentally uses berries in the decoration, and she's allergic to them. The moment she eats some, Massimo notices right away and rushes to grab her allergy shot. He gives it to her immediately, saving her from a serious reaction. You can tell, this guy really pays attention to her, even when she doesn't notice things about herself. Seriously, husband of the year right there. Later, Massimo surprises Evie by taking her to an old, rundown place. She's confused at first, thinking he's planning to renovate it for them to live in. But he smiles and says, not exactly. I wanted to show you this place because I'm going to turn it into a restaurant for you. Evie is completely shocked. She can't believe he's doing something so big just to make her happy. And of course, she's thrilled. Massimo starts working hard on the place, and soon enough, her new restaurant opens. But business isn't booming. The restaurant only gets a few older customers, barely 5 people at a time. It's slow, and things aren't looking too promising. Still, Evie stays patient, and when she talks to Massimo about it, he comforts her. He tells her to be patient, that her time will come, and reminds her that she's incredibly talented and deserves her own place. Not long after that, Massimo finally opens his dream building, the ship-shaped structure, and it's a huge success. Everyone's impressed, and he's over the moon. He's finally achieved his lifelong goal. But that same night, everything changes. A huge storm hits, so powerful that it destroys Massimo's building completely. And with it, all his hard work and reputation are gone in an instant. At the same time, that same storm ends up blocking the main highway. So all the travelers who were stuck on the road take shelter in Evie's restaurant. Suddenly, her once empty place is packed full of people, including a well-known food critic. When Evie realizes who's sitting in her restaurant, she starts panicking. She's nervous and can barely think straight. But she takes a deep breath, pulls herself together, and cooks one of her best dishes ever. The next morning, Evie wakes up, checks her phone, and can't believe what she's seeing. The famous food critic from last night wrote a huge article praising her cooking, saying it was absolutely amazing and even recommending Evie's restaurant to everyone. Evie is over the moon. She's so happy she can barely sit still. She rushes downstairs, ready to tell Massimo the big news. But when she sees him, the excitement fades. He's sitting there, completely crushed. His career is falling apart. People are making fun of his building online, turning it into memes, and basically treating his life's work like a joke. Evie looks at him and decides not to tell him about her success right away. But Massimo notices something's up and insists on knowing what she wanted to tell him. So, she finally admits it. Her restaurant got an amazing review, and it's starting to get attention. Massimo smiles, genuinely happy for her, but deep down he's still broken. Later that day, Evie goes back to her restaurant and is completely shocked. The place is packed, full of customers, all coming in because of that article. Her and her staff can barely keep up with the crowd. It's pure chaos, but in the best way possible. Meanwhile, Massimo is driving with their 2 kids to visit Evie at the restaurant. On the way, he gets a call from his boss, and the conversation is brutal. His boss basically tells him, "Listen, your building destroyed our reputation. Everyone's laughing at us, so we've decided to put all the blame on you. You're fired." Massimo's devastated, but he doesn't even argue. He picks up his kids and goes straight to the restaurant. When he gets there, he's stunned. It's full of people buzzing with life. He looks at Evie with a proud smile and says, "Looks like you did it, huh?" She's glowing with happiness, and for a second, everything feels okay again. But then he tells her the truth about what happened, that he lost his job and that his whole career is basically over. Evie feels for him and quickly says, "Okay, I have an idea. Since the restaurant's doing well now, I'll take care of the household expenses for a while. You can stay home and focus on the kids until you get back on your feet." Massimo agrees, thankful for her support. And just like that, their roles completely switch. Evie becomes the busy one, constantly buried in work, while Massimo takes care of the kids. To be fair, he actually does a great job at it. He changes the kids' lifestyle completely. No more junk food, no more sweets. He gets them eating healthy, playing sports, and living a structured, balanced life. You can tell he's putting real effort into being a good dad. But with every change, there are consequences. Evie's job starts taking over her life, and she spends less and less time with the family. The kids get closer to their dad, and the connection between Evie and Massimo starts to fade. Even their romantic relationship feels off. They still love each other, but something's not the same anymore. Over time, Evie's career explodes. Her restaurant becomes so successful that she opens more branches, building an entire chain. Massimo, on the other hand, focuses completely on the kids and the house. He's proud of her success, but deep down, he starts to feel like he's falling behind. The gap between them keeps growing. One night, they host a small gathering with their friends, Evie's crowd from the culinary world and Massimo's old buddies. During the party, Massimo's best friend, Barry, notices how distant the couple seems. He pulls Massimo aside and tells him, "Listen, man, you need to get your life back together. Women don't like men who give up. You've got to start working again, or she's going to stop seeing you as her partner." Before Massimo can even respond, Barry's wife jumps into the conversation, and things get weird. She starts agreeing with Barry, saying things like, "He's right, you know. It's such a shame, someone like you wasting his potential." After the party, things feel even more tense. Massimo talks to Evie and suggests that maybe they should take a break from work and home life. Go on a trip together, just the 2 of them, like old times. Maybe it'll help them reconnect. Evie agrees, hoping it'll bring them closer again. So they get on a plane to another state for a short getaway. But as soon as they take off, Evie falls asleep. She's exhausted from work and passes out instantly, leaving Massimo sitting alone. While he's sitting there, a woman suddenly approaches him. It's another architect, an old colleague of his, and she greets him like it's been years. She laughs and says, "Wow, ever since that failed building of yours, you've really disappeared. You know, we still use that project in the office as the perfect example of failure." She even starts showing off pictures of a huge new project she's leading on her own, basically rubbing her success in his face. Massimo tries to keep calm, but you can see he's fuming inside. The humiliation stings. He calls for the flight attendant and starts ordering drink after drink, clearly trying to drown his frustration. After a few too many, he ends up arguing with the attendant over a napkin he drew something on. When she accidentally throws it away, he loses it, actually quickly digs through the trash to get it back, saying it's an important sketch for his next big idea. Everyone's staring at him, and it's just not a great look. He's drunk, upset, and desperate to prove he's still worth something. Eve takes Massimo back to their hotel, trying to calm him down and take care of him. She tells him she has an important work errand to run and asks him to come along for fun. But Massimo isn't really in the mood, so she says fine, she'll go alone, and they'll meet later that night to go out together. But things don't exactly go as planned. Eve ends up staying out late with her work friends, while Massimo waits for her to come back. When she finally does, she's completely drunk. So yeah, that romantic evening they planned, totally ruined. They start throwing little jabs at each other, sarcastic comments, passive-aggressive digs. You know, the kind of fight where you pretend you're not fighting, but everyone can tell you are. The next day, they take their flight back home. On the plane, Eve's feeling guilty and wants to apologize, but she's too proud to do it at first. After a bit, she finally swallows her pride and says sorry, but Massimo doesn't accept it. He just stands up and walks away. A few days later, Eve takes Massimo to this beautiful spot overlooking the sea. She points to it and says, Tata. Massimo's like, wait, what's Tata? She smiles and tells him, I want you to build us a house here. Our house. And I want you to design it yourself. For Massimo, this is huge. He's beyond happy. Finally, he gets to work again, design again, and kind of redeem himself after everything. Time jumps ahead 3 years. Massimo's still working on the house, and their kids have grown up, both super sporty, always running around. Barry and his wife come by the construction site to check it out. Barry's impressed with the design, but his wife? Yeah, she's way too impressed with Massimo. She keeps flirting right in front of her husband, touching his arm, giggling, like, come on, lady, have some shame. Later, Eve visits the site and starts arguing with Massimo about how much money he's spending. She's like, why are you buying all this unnecessary stuff? What's that green material you want for the roof? Do you realize it costs over $200,000? Massimo, trying to stay calm, tells her he knows what he's doing. He just wants the house to be strong and beautiful. But Eve walks off mumbling angry words under her breath. That night, Massimo tries to show her some design samples to choose from, but she's totally distracted with work. He's talking, and she's not even listening. He finally snaps and starts ranting at her for never paying attention. So she gets frustrated, storms off to the fridge, grabs a handful of berries, and eats them, forgetting she's allergic to them. Massimo panics, rushes to grab her injection, and helps her right away. Then he starts scolding her again, like, what was that? That's not how adults handle things, Eve. This isn't a game. Just then, their son walks in asking if there's any milk. Both parents immediately drop the argument and act completely normal, pretending nothing happened. Classic couple move. The next morning, Eve tries to make up for it by joining the kids for a jog. She's been feeling distant lately and wants to reconnect. Her daughter teases her, saying, we're running 2 kilometers. Can you handle that? Eve laughs and says, of course. Then, mid-run, her daughter casually mentions that last night was the first time she got her period. Eve stops and goes, wait, what? Why didn't you tell me? The girl says she already told her dad, and he handled it. That moment hits Eve hard. She realizes her kids are way closer to their father than to her. Even with something so personal, her daughter went to him first. That stings. Later, she sits down with Massimo, and they both agree to see a relationship therapist to fix things. Funny enough, it's the same therapist from the beginning of the movie. But when they actually sit in her office, they can't take her seriously. They start mocking her questions and realizing how ridiculous this whole thing feels. Like, come on, they've been married for 13 years. How is someone who's just met them supposed to analyze their relationship in one session? They end up laughing about it, and the tension completely fades. They leave the session, kiss outside, and everything feels normal again. When they get home, their kids excitedly tell them they've both earned sports scholarships in Miami. Massimo's proud but emotional. He's going to miss them a lot. Eve, on the other hand, seems calm, almost detached. Then the two of them finally move into their new dream house. And wow, this place is insane. Like, everything runs on voice commands. It's basically a luxury smart home straight out of the future. Soon their friends come over to celebrate the new house, and everyone's blown away by how gorgeous it is. Even that engineer woman who flirted with Massimo on the plane shows up, and she's practically drooling over the house. Then Barry, as usual, pulls Massimo aside to ask how things are going with Eve. Massimo says they're fine, but you can tell from his face things aren't really fine. And just like before, Barry's wife keeps flirting with Massimo, right in front of her husband again. She leans in close, says she's been thinking about him since yesterday, and even starts talking about where she gets her shots. Like, girl, what are you doing? Barry's just sitting there, silent, pretending nothing's happening. She even compliments Massimo's eyes, saying they look incredible. Everyone sits down for dinner together that night, but the atmosphere is tense. Like, You could cut the air with a knife. Massimo tries to talk about Eve's success at work, but the way he says it, it's more sarcastic than proud. He's complimenting her, but it's clear he's actually mocking her. Eve, of course, doesn't stay quiet. She fires back, taking jabs at his new house project and even his failed career. The guests sitting around them are basically praying for the earth to open up and swallow them. The tension is that bad. The whole dinner turns into a war of words, subtle insults flying back and forth, until Eve finally loses it completely. She grabs the decorative cake that's shaped like their new house, the one she made to celebrate it, and starts throwing pieces of it at everyone around the table. Guests, decorations, everyone gets a piece of the chaos, literally. Later that night, after the embarrassing scene, Eve and Massimo finally sit down to have the talk. No filters this time. Massimo tells her straight up, "Ever since you started focusing on your work, you've abandoned me and the kids. Can you even tell me which one of them is allergic to peanut butter? Or which one had a dermatologist appointment last month? Of course you can't, because you haven't been here." Then he adds, "And that house I built, you only wanted me to build it to feed your own ego. You made me feel like I was just a project to you. You think because it's your money, you own me, that you can buy my time, my love, my presence." Eve fires back, "You're being cruel, Massimo. You always need attention. You want everyone to look at you. You can't stand it when I succeed more than you." Massimo snaps, "Oh, really? Don't forget who helped you open your first restaurant. It was me who did that, Eve." The night ends with both of them emotionally drained, neither one willing to back down. The next morning, Eve tries to talk to him again, but this time Massimo breaks down. He's exhausted. Then, out of nowhere, he quietly tells her he wants a divorce. Eve is stunned. It hits her like a ton of bricks. She's in complete shock, asking how he could walk away after everything they've been through. But he just stays silent. So she stands up and says, "You know what? You're not leaving me. I'm leaving you." And that's it. The line is drawn. They both get lawyers involved. Turns out, their friend Barry, yeah, the same Barry who's been hanging around for ages, is actually a lawyer. Who knew, right? During negotiations, Massimo says he doesn't want anything except the house. But Eve refuses to give it up. All she's willing to offer him is $100,000. So, no agreement. When they get home, the real war begins. They start ruining each other's stuff, breaking things that matter most to the other person. He destroys her favorite things. She breaks his in return. At one point, she even throws a crab into the bathtub while he's showering. Pure chaos. In revenge, he locks her in a room and blasts loud music until she freaks out. Then he slides the sale contract for the house under the door, telling her to sign it. Eve responds by lighting the contract on fire and throwing it back under the door. Absolute madness. From there, it just gets uglier. They start messing with each other's careers. Eve's main restaurant ends up getting shut down by the health department, and you can tell both of them are falling apart. One night, they sit down at the dining table, trying to talk things out calmly for once. Massimo cuts a small slice of cake and shares it with her. But what Eve doesn't realize is that the cake has berries in it, the one thing she's allergic to. As soon as she eats it, her allergy kicks in. Massimo looks her in the eyes and coldly says, "If you sign the house contract, I'll give you the injection. If not, well, guess we'll see what happens. Either way, if you're gone, I inherit the house." Eve's shocked, barely able to speak, asking if he's serious, if he's really going to let her die over this. He calmly says, "I don't want to hurt you, but if I have to, I will." Eventually, she gives in and signs the paper. Immediately, he gives her the injection and tells her, "I was never actually going to let you die." But she's furious, shaking, and still doesn't believe him. She storms out, runs to the bedroom, grabs a gun, and tries to shoot him. She's not a good shot, though. The bullets miss, and he dodges around the room. They both start shouting, arguing, and weirdly enough, it almost feels like therapy for them. Like they're letting out everything they've held in for years. They start breaking things again. He smashes her precious vintage oven, and she destroys his favorite dining table. It's pure emotional chaos, but underneath all that anger, something shifts. Massimo finally says, "Eve, please, give me the house. That's all I want. Take everything else. I don't care." Eve looks at him and says, "I thought I was the only thing you ever loved." Massimo pauses, then says softly, You were everything to me." She asks, "Then why did you stop loving me?" He looks at her and says, "You're the one who stopped, not me." Then he turns and walks away, locking himself in another room. He follows, asking if he really meant what he said, or if he's just scared of her. Massimo replies through the door, "I meant every word. You hate me, Eve, and I can't live with that." She starts crying and says, "Hate you? I don't hate you. I love you more than anything." They finally break down together, crying, hugging, and just like that, the tension melts away. It's like all that pain, all that anger, suddenly turns into love again. They kiss, they make up, and for the first time in a long time, things feel right between them. Massimo takes her to the bedroom. They sit together in this quiet, romantic moment. He tells the smart home system to play a love song and turn on the fireplace. But then we notice something. The oven, the one he broke earlier, is leaking gas. A spark from the fireplace ignites, and just as the romantic music swells, we hear the clicking sound of ignition, and the screen cuts to black. The movie ends right there, leaving it totally up to us to imagine what happened next.